At Dave Cooper Live, we connect the industry leaders in the architectural, engineering, and construction space with the people, the products, and the processes to help them build it better. Today, we're breaking open one of the industry's best kept secrets, the black box of truss design. For decades, the process has been shrouded in mystery, inefficiency, and restrictions that stifle creativity and collaboration. But what if I told you that the future of truss design is here and it's open, flexible, and driven by cutting-edge technology? Join us as we welcome John Holland, CEO of Paragon, to reveal how they're transforming construction one truss at a time right here on Dave Cooper Live, where we showcase the people, the products, and the processes to help us all build it better. This is the conversation that could change how you build forever. And let's not forget to give a shout out to the fine folks who keep us powered up at Dave Cooper Live, Sean Intagliata and Dave Stewart from Cobalt Creed, high velocity, small duct heating and cooling solutions. So go and check them out. First now, a few words to our sponsors before we get into this. Forward Solutions Group is successfully driving companies to succeed where others have failed. Are you looking to start a factory, optimize your existing factory, streamline your production, or take your team to the next level? Whatever your needs are, Forward has a solution for you. Reach out to Ben at forwardsolutionsgroup.com. Halleck Ltd. has a long history of innovation in cold form steel manufacturing and producing innovative precision roll forming technology for customers throughout the United States and the world. Check out their machine buyer's guide for off-site modular construction or fast build construction with light steel for framing. Go to their website, halleckltd.com. Brought to you by Greatech, one of the largest Autodesk partners globally and software developer of the PowerPack Advanced Design, Advanced Steel, and the StruxSoft product line. The complete solution to automate wood and light gauge steel framing, design, and documentation all the way out to CNC output, model, design, and manufacture with StruxSoft. Learn more at StruxSoftSolutions.com. All right. Again, thank you to all of our supporting members. We cannot bring you all of these innovative conversations without them. With that said, let's hop into it and bring John Holland onto the show. John, how you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing well, Dave. Thanks for having me on.
Man, it's been a few months since I saw you at BCMC. You had one of the nicest displays in the center of the floor. It was packed. In fact, even your marketing crew said, hey, let's sit down and have a conversation, which then got me thinking, why not have you on the show? Because what you're doing is a lot different than anybody else what they were doing at BCMC, and I'm sure around the world. So before we get into that, John, we want to know everything about you from the moment you were born to this very moment in time. Do not leave out any of the good stuff from the hospital, or we're going to have your family members on. And I know it's a family business, and that might get a little slippy for you, but you only got a minute and a half to do it. The floor is yours.
Great. Well, yeah, I'll start way before I was born. 1962, my grandfather started a truss plant in Meridian, Mississippi. And many years later now, it is still in the third generation of ownership, and that is still the family business. In 2016, we took a lot of our innovation at Clear Span Components and separated it off and made Paragon. We realized there is a lot of room for innovation. And for me, myself, when I was 12 years old is when I got put out in the truss plant and given the opportunity to build trusses. And it was hard work. And I realized what went into producing these components. The work is hard, and it was very clear to me that this is really important things that go into the buildings that people live in every day. And I asked my father, what do I need to do to move on from the actual construction of these trusses in the shop to moving into the office? And he said, you need to have a skill that's valuable in the office before you can move into the nice air conditioning. And that's when I went home and said, I'm going to take this programming book off the shelf. How hard could it be? And the answer is very hard, but turns out that was where my calling was. And I was really excited to dive into that.
And so here you are, right? Not only still in the trust business, but you've decided to take it a step forward and kind of rewrite the rules on how we collaborate, how we innovate, how we design, how we share information, which is, I bet, something back in 1969 they never even thought possible.
We've come a long ways.
Yep. So let's walk into it. I know we got a presentation. We got a lot to get through. So if you're out there, sit down, buckle up, because you're going to enjoy this show today. John's going to not only give us a presentation, but he's also going to give us a demonstration of what the software does. So if you're ready, I'll put it up for you.
Please do. All right, perfect. Well, that's the summary. If you take nothing else away, is that Paragon is the future of truss design software. Yeah. I've got a lot of information in these slides, and I'm not going to read every word of it. But if that's something you have an interest in to read through and see all these details, even if it's not live, all this information will be here, and the slides will be provided at some point for anybody that's interested. But that's a picture of my grandfather you see. He started this in 1962. He actually had some patents on some prefabricated wall processes and manufacturing, and some of that is still literally in use today, all these years later. So that's my grandfather there left, my father in the background. That's actually us working on one of the machines that is still actively in use today. And that's really where everyone's passion through all the generations came to be. It's how can we innovate and make this better?
That's awesome.
So, perfect. Truss design is a black box the construction world can't access. At least that was true up until today, up until we officially launched publicly the free sign-up button on ParagonTruss.com the Tuesday of BCMC, and the response has been phenomenal. Before that point, there was a lot of hoops you had to jump through to be able to access truss design software. There was a lot of work you had to go through finding a truss manufacturer that you could be connected with in order to have access to the tools to answer some pretty fundamental questions about these components that go into structures. So there are three main stakeholders that go into the truss design process, and everybody cares about the trusses. They matter. The structure of a building is something that's important. You can't just gloss over that. It's not just aesthetic. It is a critical part. Component manufacturers, obviously, are the people up until this point that have every part of truss design under their belts. Granted, there's always been this interesting relationship from back in the day when component manufacturers, building designers, the people that put them together, there wasn't nearly as much technology in it. But now, there's so many pieces to this construction. Construction has only gotten more complicated, more powerful, and there's a lot of pieces to it. So component manufacturers obviously care. Structural engineers and building designers, they have a lot that depends on what can be done. How long can a truss really span? A common question you'll get of what can you really do? And the answer is almost always, it depends. This stuff is complicated. Finally, the people that are going and putting these things on the building, the framers that are trying to be efficient out in the field. We've got things like getting the bracing right. That is not an obvious answer of how to do that on some buildings. So everybody has a stake in how trusses are designed and what that looks like in the end.
You know, John, let me ask you a quick question. What makes truss design so complicated? I mean, dive in that a little bit, because a lot of people would sit there and say, well, they're trusses. You know, how complicated is it to design trusses, on the machines? But it's like everything else. It's a lot more complex than anybody could even imagine. So maybe give us a little breakdown on kind of where the passion to design, come up with something to help this move along, and what was the problem that you're solving?
Absolutely. So originally, people drew everything on a piece of paper with a pencil. We actually have one employee at Clearspan Components that has been there doing this over 50 years as a designer. He's gone through literally from the day of doing it with pencil and paper all the way through 5 or 6 different design softwares. And the biggest difference between what the world looks like now versus the way it did then is the level of complexity and the level of detail we get to. It used to be a method of joints or simplified analysis of how a truss structure would work, and there'd be pretty simple shapes. Now you can design a truss in any shape, and we do a full finite element analysis on it to figure out exactly what the stresses are, what the deflections are. Even getting down to the part that makes trusses particularly complicated and special and unique is the partial fixity that goes into joints and the connection between those metal connector plates and the pieces of wood. So those are some of the many pieces that go into just the actual design of individual components. But then there's everything that goes into trying to do it efficiently to get it to the job site, to build it efficiently. What's the right order to build these trusses in for your plant based on your machinery? It's an interesting and hard problem that is really a combination between man and machine.
Yeah, and I'm sure you're going to touch on all that. Go for it.
Perfect. Yeah, we talk about some of the problems in the world up into the status quo before we came on the scene. Up until this point, the best word to describe Truss software is siloed, where it wasn't accessible to everyone. That it came tied specifically with the type of hardware that you had access to. So until Paragon came along, you always had to get access to Truss design software based on what type of connectors you'd be purchasing. Paragon is only a software provider. We don't provide anything separate from that. We don't provide engineering. We don't sell a physical product. We are only software as a service. Oftentimes, the philosophy in the past was having these really large software packages that you would install on your desktop that were meant to do as much of everything as it can for you. Everything from, pulling in other people's starting points of putting a PDF that you trace, putting a DXF or a DWG that you take from some other ecosystem into your world, and then redo a lot of the work that was perhaps done by someone upstream. So very much a siloed process where you had to take other people's work and then redo some of that in this platform. Not so in Paragon. Interoperability is something that in the modern world, things like APIs are really the difference for. High barrier to entry is the other thing I'd point to, that it's not easy to get started. There's a lot to learn. The stuff's complicated, but sometimes more complicated than it needed to be because there weren't easy ways to go and educate yourself on how to do these things. So that's one of the problems from the truss manufacturer's perspective. The other thing I'd point to specifically about trusses and the way that they've been done up in the status quo until now is by the requirement of delegated design as the only option. So much of what the building designer goes through upstream of trying to make the best building he can make, it helps for him to have all the information and get faster feedback about, well, when I make this decision to put this wall here, what impact does that have? How much should I really change the cost of the structure by moving that wall out or making this change to the roof pitch? Delegated design, you'd often probably see on many of the designs you see go downstream for the structural set, ... trusses by others. Here's a general idea where they might go, but really that's all stuff that's handled downstream. We're going to provide a vision here in a few minutes about how that can look different and what that really means for the entire life cycle of all the stakeholders to be involved. Like I said, it hinders the difficulty of being able to be flexible. It makes it hard to truly value engineer a structure when you don't have all the information available at the time when building design is being done. Right now, that happens downstream by the time it gets to the manufacturer.
So with your software, you're almost end to end from the consumer through the truss manufacturer, through the design, and then delivery all the way to installation.
Absolutely. We provide solutions that we think are helpful for everyone in the entire process.
Great.
Perfect. So I've covered over some of this. The only thing I'll point out here of it just being outdated and closed. In the new world, building codes are only getting more complicated. There's some great things that come in them, but there's also a lot of challenges that come with this. Is getting to be really complex. It's a lot to keep in mind. And what does that mean when applied to a building that looks like this crazy structure? The more complexity that's involved, the more software is going to have to be a solution to help to be able to do this in a timely way. So those are some of the description of where the world was, what we're bringing to the team, what we're bringing to the world. Truss design analysis into the open for the entire building industry. We have a lot of different pieces of software. I'm not going to give a demonstration of each of them, but I am going to at least give a high-level overview. There's this video on YouTube that I'm going to just go ahead and have play. This is something you can go watch on your own, but I'll talk over it as an example to point to just some of the things that will flash on the screen and stuff you might be interested to dig into later. So seeing here all the different shapes, you may come up with a lot of different things that your building needs. Sometimes the question is, can trusses do this? Can I even use this structural system for this type of building? Those are the sorts of questions that people have. That you need a high level of precision to be able to say exactly what stresses are expected by this cantilever condition. Can this shape work? You want a real sense of exactly how much wood needs to go into this structure for it to be sufficient. And you have questions out in your shop, how that ought to look. You have questions about what is the ideal webbing configuration? How do the other connectors that hold the rest of the structure together look based on the reactions that come from this truss? That's all stuff that people care about. Like I said, there is a lot of precision that goes into wanting to design something that's very specific. Sometimes you're trying to run HVAC, you're trying to run plumbing through these trusses, and how do you know you're not going to conflict with the rest of the pieces that go into the structure? There's a lot you need to know. Also, the math, I gloss over that, but they're really complicated. It's hard. Nobody does by hand a calculation for a truss. It takes too much work to do that by hand anymore. Finally, access to a lot more information. Once you've got this truss design, you need to be able to send it to the shop. You need to be able to send it for manufacturing in an efficient way. You need to be able to take it and do your clash detection in other pieces of software. You need to be able to integrate into the other tools that other people are using in the entire life cycle. So being able to share it with other people more easily. It's not just sending design files around, but literally sending them an email, sending them a QR code, and having everything that they need at their fingertips to take it and be useful with it. And,
oh wow, they can. So there's an app for this then.
Not even an app. As long as you've got a web browser enabled device, you can scan that QR code and do it natively without installing anything.
Got it. And is that QR code on the trusses themselves or just on the plans?
Yep. So you can get it in both places. So if you want one of those wraparound labels, you'll probably start to see those out in the field, or you could probably set that tiny little label that's on the bottom cord of that truss where you can walk out there with your phone, scan it, and get to all of the information.
Thank you.
Perfect. So with that, I'm going to dive into a brief demo to help explain what that can look like. If you get one of these across your desk or are interested in being able to produce this truss design drawing, what does that look like? So most people's reaction when they look at a truss design drawing is that's a lot of information, and yet it's still not a sufficient amount of information for an engineer or building designer to say, yes, that met all of the assumptions of what I was hoping to be considered for this design. You'll see down here in the bottom right-hand corner, we describe all of the load cases that were considered for this truss design, and we give you some idea of which ones are most controlling, what was providing the most intense stresses on this truss. But what do those words really mean with this shape truss? You know, with a common truss like this, you can probably get a pretty good idea. But really digging into what does dead plus 0.75 roof live, main wind force resisting, negative internal pressure from the left, from the right. Well, everything you see on our truss design drawings that come out of our software has what we call a truss link that allows you to get to the root information. So I'm going to click on that from this PDF, and it'll launch my browser and load that truss and the entire project with all the loading information, all the analysis information, and any question you have about a truss should be able to be answered from here. Notice you didn't see me click login. You didn't see me do anything beyond just click on it. Whether you're on your phone or your tablet, whether you're on your laptop, looking at this as a PDF or as a piece of paper, you should be able to answer any question you have. So you can see from here, this is what that truly means, and exactly what the loading is on this shaped truss for that configuration that we clicked. If I go back to here, there's anything you want to know. If you want to specifically understand some of the dimensions, hey, you're out in the field, this doesn't look quite right to me. What was the design supposed to be? Is this sitting where I expected it would be? You could come click on W2, and it will launch the software, pick W2, and give you that dimension that you should pull. You can pull your own custom dimensions. You can hopefully answer any question that you can come up with that you might want to know.
Wow. And building inspectors on site could do this as well?
Correct. Anyone who has the piece of paper or the PDF that goes downstream, it can be used to answer a question at any level. So In this future that I'm imagining the world will look like with Paragon available, there's a lot of fear that, well, this information, that used to be in this silo that was only in the hands of really the truss manufacturer and a piece of paper that was just external data that was enough to get a building permit. Now that information getting out to the rest of the world or other people having the ability to design it, that's a fear that I think is a little bit unfounded. There's not going to be this world where everyone upstream knows enough about what to make the most efficient design is. So I'm going to go through a little bit of demonstration here showing how that can work, where if you have preliminary design and you're using this as more of a communication tool of this is what I was thinking the design to look like, this is what I'm thinking will solve the problem in the structure that I'm looking for, and still giving component manufacturers downstream the ability to make the changes that they need to add the value that they add by their intimate knowledge of the product. So I'm going to just take this design as it currently is here. First, I'll show off the entire layout itself. If you have questions not only of the truss, but of the entire structure of any of the components that have been run through Paragon, you can pull dimensions in 3D. You can click on and inspect anything about it that you want to. Look through any of your carried component connections. If you're trying to understand exactly how much loading was on any one of these pieces, this information's here. If you want to know what the reactions were transferred between truss to truss. This is 157 pounds from the top core to the jack that goes into this girder. But I'm going to take this whole project and I'm going to hit this button at the top. So you'll notice this piece of paper that I started from lets me look at everything that's here, but maybe I want to make some changes. Maybe I want to make it possible for me to optimize it for my shop, for my plant. Maybe I use totally different materials. Maybe I don't use a particular plate manufacturer of these sizes. And I need to do my own optimizations of where I splice the bottom cord. I can hit this button that copies the entirety of this truss design and all of the project into my organization. From here, I have the ability to modify and make any changes I need to without modifying the original preliminary set that was sent to me. So from here, I'm going to come in and make a change to, this was originally done with Southern Pine. I'm going to do it with Douglas Fir. And instead of using any plate, I'm going to use a MyTech inventory. And I'm going to reanalyze this truss. And it's going to go through and make the changes to show you, yes, this is what results you get. Oh, you know what? This is now being sent to a different plant that uses a different set of materials. How easy is it for them to change this and run it in their own settings? They can come in and make such a change, and it's as easy as that.
Are those settings preloaded, or when somebody actually, works with you for this software solution, do you help them load all that, or do you have most of it already preloaded from the manufacturers?
Great question. So depending on how you get access to this, if you're using the free account, we just already have default inventories put in for you that lets you access the entire range of every product catalog. But what we found is more useful in the paid tiers and the higher levels is you want to be able to narrow that down to specifically what you use, and particularly what, if you have a multi-plant setup, what you use in that location. So they have full customization and full configuration of each of those.
Got it. And one last question, is there a future for cold form steel truss manufacturing with this?
Best I can tell you, stay tuned. There's a lot we have cooking for the future.
Excellent.
One other feature I'll show off while I'm here, because I realize this is an important question that people have about data and what does it mean to share it and what can other people do with it. One of the most important things to look to is how did that affect what was sent to me? Did I somehow modify what they sent me and now theirs is all of my changes? No, you can always go back in time. So if you want to compare what was the difference between these two analyses that we did, I can go back in time, and every time this truss is analyzed, a new copy that we call immutable is put into this history. So we have full version control that lets you go back in time. Maybe you want to go back to before that modification was made. Maybe the architect decided that, changed my mind, we went down this path, but turns out the customer wasn't happy with it. Let's go back to the way we were. We keep a full history of every design that's been done. One other thing I'll show as part of that, I'm going to turn on a detailed analysis and show more of the information we hold on to. If you have a failure in the field, if you have any other question you want to know downstream about how this truss was designed and why we get the numbers we do, why is the plate size what it is, we contain all the information that one would need to know here in what we call our detailed analysis. So this probably is hard for people to read and probably doesn't mean much to those who are not engineers. But if you were to work this out by hand, these are the exact numbers that you should get at every step of the problem. So this being analyzed, I think for this project was done for TPI 2014, IBC 2018, maybe 2021. You should be able to step through and get these exact numbers and matching. Yes, these are the numbers I would expect it to be.
Wow.
So that's, again, as a summary, my hope is any question you have about a truss and how it got to be the way that it is, what assumptions were made, you can always track that down and find that information from the QR code or the hyperlink that's contained in it.
So I do have a question. So the truss design is one part of an entire building, right? And to know what you need to design on that truss, you also need to know what the building is you're building, right? And the dimensions of that building. How does that information translate from the architect, designer, draftsman into the Paragon system so you can plug and play?
Great question. So everybody has the tools that they're most familiar with, the ones they like the best. Some people are still in the 2D world where they do all of this in CAD. Others prefer the Revit platform. Others use something else. Interoperability is its own buzzword in the entire construction and building design industry. If you have an IFC file, you can hand us that and we can import that and give you what that looks like in our world. Or if you want to stay entirely native to what you're using and you don't even want to use our product, but you just want to have a plugin into those environments that send the information off to our servers and then sends it back, we have an API that allows you to do all that remotely. So something that I think everybody can tell from what I've done here, but I'll just worth reiterating. This is entirely running in the cloud. So this is software as a service. There is nothing you install. There's nothing you do that requires anything special about what device you're running it from. Mm-hmm. So if you have an innovation or some other piece of your process that you want to plug in Paragon into part of, everything you need is able to be done as long as you have an internet connection.
That's awesome. That's kind of where the world's going, right? And I lose my mind when the social media accounts go down. I couldn't, not having access to that, at all times. And what you're saying here, it doesn't matter where you're at. Even if you're in a place where your internet goes down, you can go to the coffee shop and get everything you need right up the road. You don't have to run back to the office. You don't have to print 1,000 different forms. It's always right there for you.
Absolutely. And not only that, but when it comes to things like, well, all right, a new version has come out. The next building code is now available. In the old world, when the status quo for softwares other than ours, you've always got to install the new version. You've got to run the update.
Right.
As you're probably more familiar with software as a service products like your social media, you don't install an update. Next time you come back to this web page or refresh it, it's got the latest. And so we push a new version at least once a week, sometimes more. And we like to joke, we move fast, and if we break something, it should be back up, instantaneously. As soon as we know about it, it's live, and we're able to push out fixes far quicker than we otherwise might be able to. So,
how big is the Paragon team currently?
We are currently around 15, though since BCMC, the response has been huge. Since our public launch in October, there's been a lot more response than we expected. So if you have an interest of a way that you think you can contribute to the Paragon mission and have an interest in working in this space, we'd love to talk to you. If you'd reach out at hiring@paragontrust.com, we would love to hear from you.
Hey, listen, I'll put that up on the screen, right? Paragontrust.com. Hey, listen, we love it when the industry's hiring. That means we're growing. That means you're growing, right? And I think, innovation is the way forward. And I do believe technology is going to help us solve, even the housing crisis for that matter, because we're all struggling with how do we get more work done with less people? Because that's what's happening in the industry right now, all the way from the manufacturing facilities to the field, and coming up with solutions such as this that, though it is very complicated to somebody from the outside looking in, I bet it's very easy for somebody that's used to working in these types of softwares to pick up quickly.
And that's my hope. And I really do think that while there's going to be a lot more exposure to the rest of the world, it's not going to be an overnight thing where now everyone's a truss expert.
Yeah.
That's something that is, I think, a fear that many people have. How easy have we made it? These things are complicated, and do people know what they're doing when they're using it? There are a lot of assumptions that go into a truss design. And so I really do think there is a lot of value that people don't give a truss manufacturer credit for that they bring to the design process. So there's been conversations, for years now of involving the truss people further upstream in the conversation. And my hope is that is exactly what's going to come from our tools. Is not only do people have the ability to tinker with it themselves and get some early answers for at this span for this shaped truss, what reactions are we even thinking? Where does my girder truss really need to go on this layout? But they're going to be able to better engage and better converse with the experts that are the truss manufacturers.
Help me understand where AI plays a role in all of this, right? Because there's a lot of talk about how you have embedded AI, which means that it's learning all the time and hopefully correcting and finding things. So talk to me about the AI, and then I want to get into quality control and how it monitors quality control for these.
Absolutely. So trusses are a unique problem because you can't just easily intuitively know the answer to what is the most efficient design until you play with it, until you try something. Yeah, you don't really know what effect it's going to have by adding another piece of wood, by moving this piece of wood over. Uh, the unique thing about machine learning and AI for this problem space is the ability to try a lot more configurations and try a lot more things intelligently. Really experienced human designers have an idea of what to try because they have a lot of experience having done this before, seeing what helps and what's hurt in past situations. But often time is the main constraint with these design tools of being able to try every combination or try, hey, what if we tried doing our girder setback of moving our truss to 8 feet versus 6 feet? Well, what was the real trade-off there of the change in material content? Do we need higher grades of lumber? Do we need lower grades of lumber? And how did that affect cost of the hanger? Do we need a more expensive hanger to connect this truss to the girder? Those are the sorts of things that's hard to know that trade-off, and it's hard to do all the work that's required to redo that layout multiple times.
And talk to me about the quality control side of this, because we have what's designed and what's built in the factory. Does this actually coincide with, some of the laser scanning and things that are happening in the factory now to kind of pick up and catch a missed nail or a missed plate or a plate that hasn't been put all the way in?
Yes, so we have tools, like I said, we've seen from here, clicking on these links and being able to view them on any device. The ability of having the software in your hand as you walk around, being able to take that on your phone or on your tablet, being able to communicate, take pictures, request repairs, even whether you're out in the field, whether you're in the factory, whether you're a building inspector, whether you're the QC guy at a truss plant. Everybody having the information of what it was supposed to look like and how it was supposed to work, and to have a sense of how close to capacity was this design. Maybe it's something that should be of much greater concern if it's a critical area. You probably saw that in some of our video of the heat maps where we say, yeah, this part right here is really the most critical part of a truss. Here are other parts where, that truss plate being off by, 1/8 of an inch really is fine, that can work. That's all information you can get from us.
I did notice when you were doing your design and your layout, it was color coded, and that's what you're calling the heat map.
Mm-hmm. Yep, exactly. So the color coding of exactly how much stress is running through this. These checks are complicated, and getting an intuitive sense of, as I'm making changes to this truss, what is the most critical things I need to be looking for? Is it deflection? Is it the amount of axial force that's going through this member? Is it the bending?
All right, John. So here's the big question, right? Today, I'm a truss manufacturer, right? I have 2 facilities, and I'm making more trusses than I can keep up with, I hope. But with that said, I just saw Paragon. How do I work with Paragon? Tell me where it begins and walk me through what the process is to be able to integrate my current solution, whether it's Revit or Autodesk or whatever's being used out there, to work with your system.
Great question. So how you get started, I think people are going to find us in 2 different ways. One, they're going to come across hearing about us from a show much like this one, and then they go to our website and they're going to get started by clicking on the sign up for the free account and start to play with it. Others are going to get exposed to Paragon by getting a truss design drawing from us saying, hey, can you build this? Hey, we've got too much going on at our plant. We don't have enough capacity. We're looking for help trying to serve the customer well. It would really help us out if you guys can take on and deliver 2 units or 2 levels of this multifamily building. Can your plant take this on and do this? And in the status quo of previous solutions, that wasn't something easily done because people had to be on the exact same version of software, have the exact same vendors. In our world of Paragon, starting from that truss design drawing, you have everything you need to go ahead and sign up for your account, get to the tier that you need to be in order to get all the files that you need to feed your machinery, and start to design from there. So my hope is it will be the most seamless experience of what you're looking for to get started with Paragon and try it out. Now, that being said, that's how you get started. How do you take it to the next level? How do you sign up for the higher tiers and get access to more of the tools? That's what's actively coming in 2025. So the free version went out, like I said, October of BCMC. The paid versions, we are taking early adopters and letting people in 1 wave at a time. So I think the last, literally this last week is when we let in the next tier. We're expecting the full release of the standard plan to be in January, and the others following close behind. So if you have an interest in being an early adopter and making use of these tools, we'd love to talk to you.
Hey, listen, yeah, and if you're looking for a job, he'd love to talk to you as well, is what I'm hearing here. So there's a bunch of great things, bunch of needs John and the team have over there. John, who's the customer? Walk me through. I know we already know truss manufacturers are the customer. Walk me through who is the customer for you guys.
I'm going to answer that in a really broad way because I think the correct answer always needs to be the final person living in the home. The person who's making use of the structure is who we need to be most concerned about and making sure that they get an excellent product. If everyone in the entire value chain is focused on that, and that is the customer we care about, then we're going to provide excellence. So while traditionally truss manufacturers have always been and probably always will be for us the largest customer that brings the most dollars in the door, it's really my vision to see everyone in the process have the tools that they need to do an excellent job. So whether you're an engineer who's been tasked to be the engineer of record and you've got to design these by law required connections between trusses and the rest of your building, do you have the tools you need to be able to do that well? If you're the person who is coming after the fact as an engineer who has been said, hey, somebody's cut through these trusses and they need to be repaired, and this is on a structure that's been around for 10 years, oftentimes that's been an underserved issue because that person hasn't had the tools to go and run his own analysis and get the new forces analyzed on a modern analysis with current building codes. And without that piece of wood, does the rest of the truss still work? And if not, what repair is actually suitable for this application?
All right, walk me through. You have customers now, right? You went live BCMC. You now have people using it. You're getting real time feedback. Not that you couldn't get that through, your family truss manufacturing facility. What are you starting to hear? What are the attributes that you're starting to hear? Like, what do people really like? Is it time savings? Is it money savings? Is it insurance policies? There's all these different things that fall into when you're designing and how you reduce risk, right? And then, what are some of the headaches that you had? Walk us through some of the trials and learns, because we know it's not a perfect process. We'd like everything to be, but it doesn't work that way.
Absolutely. It's we're headed that direction. It'll be a while before we get there. Let's talk to someone about the history. So starting on this project, I've worked on this project for 11 years in January. That's how long I've personally been working on building the Paragon product. And so our public launch being October was a long time coming, but it wasn't entirely just out in the world of us doing this entirely in secret. Starting in 2020 in February is when the family truss plant relied on this exclusively. So there were always other pieces of software that were involved in the process until then. So this has been live in production, if you want to call it that, for the family plant for over 5 years and a handful of other customers. So there are hundreds of thousands of trusses out in the world now based on Paragon's design and analysis. So that being the internal test bed that has proven it's truly ready for the outside world, that is now in the hands of more early adopters. So far, we've been really pleased to say the experience has been really good for people that have stepped on and started to use it. My favorite story is from one designer who was just in bed one night and woke up with a start. Did I expose that porch to wind like I was supposed to? And he couldn't remember if he had done that. That job was supposed to get built tomorrow. And instead of having to get out of bed, go sit at his computer and pull up the design and check that he did it right, he was able to pull out his phone, was able to go log in and check it from his phone and know, okay, I can sleep better tonight because I know that Paragon got it right.
Right from his tidy whities, right in the bed, huh?
That's right. So that has been the first thing that people have commented on, is the ability to access it anywhere. That it is a lot less hassle than what they've been familiar with as far as trying to get set up and be able to just use it from another device, use it from somewhere else. People have had a lot of kind things to say about, the user interface. That's something that I know this stuff that's really complicated can be intimidating to get started. It can be intimidating to learn a new piece of software. So I've been really pleased to hear their feedback on that front. That being said, everyone's biggest complaint has been our intentionality of making it a small number of people we let in each wave. There have been more people who've signed up than we really were expecting. And so right now we've been trying to meter that out, especially if you're a larger customer. We've intentionally held you back and said, great, let's start you small and make sure you have an excellent experience.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's what it's all about, right? And as you're growing and launching this, you're going to find things out that's going to help you be more efficient and service clients better, because you got to grow your team as your business grows as well. And that's part of it. So, John, is there anything we didn't talk about? Is there more of your presentation that you'd like to get back to?
Yeah, I've got 2 slides I'll pull up, and like I said, they're detailed, so there'll be stuff that people want to study later. but I just want to give people a vision for what that looks like, at least in graphical form. I think I've said it all verbally, but I want to be able to show the difference between what the world used to look like up before we came and what I think it's going to look like. So not only will truss manufacturers themselves have the ability to have a lot more freedom in choosing their vendors as far as the components that go into trusses themselves, but the actual design life cycle that used to look like this, where building design and all that was done sometimes months ahead of time of the truss design, where all truss design and estimation only happened down at the stage of component manufacturers. In the new world, it's going to happen in two places. It's going to be part of the preliminary design of answering questions before it even gets down to choosing who is going to be building these trusses. There's going to be people using the information in this process to figure out the answers to their questions. And then there's going to be a totally new set that comes to being site specific for these trusses that manufacturers are still always going to take on and make their own edits and optimizations to. So really, master plan development will hopefully go a lot smoother with our tools in the future, that the design professionals will be able to have access to it and be able to do the work that they need to do. But the limitations that are in the versions that they access and in the tools that they have are going to make it so they can do their job as efficiently as possible and still leave all of the room for the innovation that a component manufacturer brings to that process.
Great.
So everybody's going to benefit. My hope is that houses are going to go together way better. There's going to be way less waste involved in this process because of how much better the communication is. I won't talk through those pieces. I will move on just to pointing out what comes next, since I know we're getting shorter on time. The roadmap. So in 2020, so when we started alpha testing with more people, we launched our public beta in 2024 at BCMC, and the full release is coming in 2025. We found out literally, I think yesterday, that we've been accepted as a finalist for the startup zone at the International Builders Show. So we'll be there exhibiting and encouraging people. If you liked a taste of this and you want to know more, come and see me in person if they're going to be at that show.
All right, congratulations on that one. I love it.
Thank you.
Yeah, we do a lot at the International Builder Show, and we cover the startup zone all the time. So I'm super excited to hear that and look forward to seeing your product there. So that'll be the next event where people can actually meet you live versus having to fly out to wherever you live and see you guys.
Yep. Like I said, if you can come out and see us, everyone's always welcome to come and take a tour of the truss plant and see it in action. We've had a lot of people who wanted to see that it was real and wanted to come see the family truss plant and see it in the context of where it came to be. So you can come and find us in that show, or I'll come find you. Paragon is a fully remote company. We're fully distributed. So while headquartered in Chattanooga, Tennessee, we have people all over the place.
Love it. Love it. I got some questions for you from online. You want to take a couple of those, and then we'll wrap up with what your one thing is and where the future is headed. Sound
Absolutely.
good?
Let's do it.
All right. Henry Mickelberg writes, can you accommodate European C16 24 timber grading or U.S. only?
So currently we are only in the U.S., but that is one of the biggest surprises that came after our public launch is the number of people from the globe who've reached out. I mean, Canada, Australia, you name it. There have been people from all over the world wanting to know when we're coming there. And are we going to do, like you said, light gauge steel? Are we going to do other building components? And the answer is all of those things are in the works to figure out when's the right way to roll those out. Who are the right partners in those regions to connect with? Because we know that we don't have the scale to go into all of those places and be everything to everyone, but it's in the works. If you'd be interested in pursuing that further, please reach out.
Yeah, Henry, appreciate the question there. Sheila Yant says, what an awesome piece of software. Great job, Paragon. Don't know if you know Sheila, but hey, thank you, Sheila, for tuning in today. Oh, no stranger to danger here. Greg Gugaldi, DC Live, great job. You helped John drill down on important concepts. If you don't know Greg is the past chair of the National Association of Home Builders. He updates the president and the Secretary of Housing on housing issues around the world. So it's always a pleasure when Greg tunes in with us. And I still see he's going to Twitch where all the young people are. That's why we go on Twitch. People like Greg, the young people show up there. So, all right, John, what's your one thing? Tell us your one thing. What are we missing? What do we need to know? What motivates you to keep at this every day? You tell me.
My one thing is really the belief that openness drives innovation. As cool as the things that we've built are, and as personally excited about what my team's been able to accomplish and live up to their potential, it's really what comes next from people outside of Paragon. The openness and transparency that's going to facilitate other people innovating in this space where they haven't been able to before, whether that's new products that go and connect to trusses, whether that's new processes, whether new machinery, you name it. That's the part that I'm most excited about. Is it's not just what did we ourselves as this little group that's Paragon accomplish, but how's the world going to be different, and how do other people contribute to the dreams and imaginations of making building the best it can be.
I love it. Basically, you're empowering the industry to build it better.
That's right.
That's what it's all about, and that's what the show's all about. John, unless there's anything else, that's a wrap for us today.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Dave. I really appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, I appreciate you being on here. And hey, listen, make sure you go and like and share and follow us on davecooper.live. Go to the YouTube channel and all those other fun social media sites if you want to learn more and you want to stay ahead of what's happening in the construction space, because we need to build it better. Too many people on the streets prove the point that the way we've been doing it isn't working. So how do we do more affordable, more sustainable, and better built homes? Well, you watch Dave Cooper Live and you learn about the people that are doing it right here. So with that said, it is Wednesday. You still got 2.5 days to keep building it better. We will see you Monday. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Hey, and make sure you stick around and thank these supporting members as well. John, I'll come back to you at the end of the outro. Bye now. What an amazing show. Thank you to all of our sponsors for helping us to continue to bring all of these innovative conversations to all of you out there. Please visit them, see what they have to offer you. And as always, subscribe to the YouTube channel and ring that bell. It would mean the world to us. I'm Dave Cooper. Thanks for watching.